Hey everyone, it's Blake. Welcome into episode number 54 of our WWE 2021 Save and TEW 2020. This is our No Mercy preview for SmackDown, our branded pay-per-view there for October. And let's look at the card real quickly, and we'll see what we have in store. Of course, if you've been following it, you know kind of what we have in store based off of our go-home episode of SmackDown. We added another match, and we added some different stuff to the mix here. This is, of course, just our main pre-booking screen. We've got Rock and Reigns here, but that will be Survivor Series, as you know. So let's look at No Mercy. I only have 5 things on here right now. That is because we can start with the Tag Team Championship match, the Women's Tag Team title match, is not on here because I did not want to spoil who the opponents are going to be for our champions, Shayna Baszler and Sonya Deville. If you want me to drop a hint, I guess I can drop a hint. Let me see. What's a good hint to give you guys? Okay, I'll give you this. Just remember when we started this save, all right? That was in June. So that's really all I can give you. And I know that's not much of a hint, but just remember sort of the landscape of the game world and some of the events that had perhaps happened as we started our save in June of 2021. So there you go. There's a tiny hint that probably will not factor into anything, but it's not much of a hint. But I kind of like to keep that one a little bit of a surprise. But I do think that it will only help our women's tag team scenario in that match. So we'll see what happens there with the champs, Shayna Baszler, Sonya Deville, if they can successfully defend their championships against their mystery opponents. All right, something else that's not on the card here, and then we'll get into the ones that are listed. The tag team match we added from SmackDown, which is Asuka, Kairi Sane against Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. The reason why is pretty simple, and that is because Raquel Gonzalez is still the NXT Women's Champion, and I would actually prefer just to keep bringing her up for each show using the borrow function rather than call her up just yet. We've already called up Dakota Kai because I want someone to beat Raquel Gonzalez for the women's title in NXT, but it hasn't happened yet, even though we have prepared her to be recalled. And that is what I kind of want to do. I don't want to just vacate the championship there. So I want someone to beat her because I'm more curious than anything. And I think that's probably going to happen at NXT TakeOver in November. So that will likely happen before Survivor Series. That'll be week 4 in November, I think, is when our takeover is there. So I am just using that, and because Raquel Gonzalez is not on the roster, I can't add her to a pre-booking of a match. So a very long-winded way to say that I'm keeping her there until she loses her title because we have prepared the recall, and she should probably lose her championship at TakeOver. If she doesn't at that point, we'll just fully call her up. So just kind of a technicality on that. All right, to the matches here. And as I said, we'll start with Bianca Belair versus Alexa Bliss. That's our third women's match on what's going to be, a 7-match card here, unless I decide to add something else, which I just don't think that's going to happen right now. But Bianca Belair will defend against Alexa Bliss, the SmackDown Women's Championship. If we look at our storyline there for that, I think it's done okay, 66 overall. We kind of see it's really found its range here since we've kind of added in the trio of Asuka, Kairi Sane, Dakota Kai, Raquel Gonzalez. We've added them to the mix, of course. So, we've kind of stayed in that same number for a lot of this. Belair's promos are going to do as well as anything, but I do like the matchup here. I think Alexa's kind of underrated in terms of ratings-wise, too. I think it's something where she's a little bit underrated, so that is something where I think this would be a pretty good match, and that's the wrong button there, but let's go back to this here. So I'm looking forward to this one. I think because of Belair, this should be a good match. And again, Alexa's ratings, I think, are a little underrated here. So I'm looking forward to this one. On that, we do have our grudge match between Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso. This was essentially booked by Roman Reigns and made official by Mick Foley. I know you guys have talked about it, sort of the intrigue and the possibilities with what's going on with the Usos and Reigns right now. What could that lead to? I know there's been some speculation in the comments. We'll see where it heads, but I think this is something that will continue to add to this story that we have going on. with Reigns, not happy with the Usos losing matches, and he just wants someone to stand out as a winner because that's what the Bloodline is. They're winners, and we'll see what this match looks like. I think from a match standpoint, it should do pretty well, but the bigger part is the story, and we'll see what we get from that. And speaking of that, let's quickly look at it, and actually we'll go to that in a second once we get to the tag team match, the main event. Also, Sami Zayn, John Cena, that's another one-on-one match that I am really looking forward to. I think from a rating standpoint, there's another one that really should deliver. I think all of our matches, when you go up and down the card here, let me go back to No Mercy, even the ones that aren't added here, I think they should do decent stuff on this show. I think we should get a pretty decent rating out of this, and I'm, of course, most curious about the main event, which we'll talk about in a second, but I do think John Cena versus Sami Zayn, it's going to do very well when you look at how this storyline has gone, 77, so it's done really good stuff here. You look at all of our ratings for this, we've pretty much, really since we started, everything has been 70 or higher, so this has really done a good job, and we all know the story at this point. Sami Zayn has said he's beaten John Cena twice already, although he hasn't actually beaten John Cena. He's just won tag team matches, and perhaps the third time, could it be, could Sami Zayn actually win for a third time here, and actually do it for perhaps the first time, since he hasn't done the other two. So we'll see what happens. Sami Zayn, John Cena, that should be good. Our triple threat match, everyone's kind of called the potential show stealer. I'm also very curious about this one. Keith Lee defends the Intercontinental Championship against Samoa Joe and Shinsuke Nakamura. This is another one that, you'll see how this plays out and why we structured it this way. You'll certainly understand that after this match. But it is one that I looked at. I was like, oh, we've got to do this based on the story that we're trying to tell with all parties involved. And it just made the most sense. And, from a storyline standpoint, too, on this one, it's really kind of advanced. This storyline has pretty much stayed the same since Apollo Crews has been the champion, I think. So we've gone way back with this, but of course it's gotten better as Keith Lee, has become champion. And really this one right here, that was the segment we talked about, I think a couple weeks ago on SmackDown. Very surprised how well it did, but it did do very well. 76 there with all three of them involved. So I think we're going to get good things out of this. And look, you've got a pretty good group there, and good luck trying to pick the winner of that match, because you've got three matches or three competitors that are just very, very good. So I am excited about this one. I think this is, maybe it could be. I don't think it's going to be the match of the night, just because from a rating standpoint, they're not all, in the 80s or anything, but I do think that you've got three guys who can really go. So we'll see what we get out of that. And then it is before we get to the main event, actually, we didn't add it here, but remember, we also added a big segment that Mick Foley announced on SmackDown that it's going to be, more of an angle, but it will involve Drew McIntyre and Bray Wyatt. So that is another big selling point. I think that is going to be can't miss. Mick Foley with a special announcement, and he wants Drew McIntyre and Bray Wyatt to be there. So we'll see what that is. But that's another big part of this No Mercy show. And then it is the main event, as it will be the Rock and Damian Priest teaming up to take on Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. Really, we look at it from a storyline standpoint. I just checked this before I started recording. This is just, I didn't realize they even hit the 90 mark yet, but we're there. And you can understand why when you look at all of our ratings with everything that we've got going on with that. It's just, you look up and down here. Everything, of course, involving The Rock, and you go all the way back. Like, this has been a pretty long-running storyline at this point. And, we did start it in June, so we started from the beginning when we started playing up, the him angle and all that. And we have just kept running this thing, and it has just kept going and going and going. And, really, you go back, like, this is our longest storyline to this point, because it does involve Reigns and everything that has gone into this since the beginning. But it has only gotten better and hotter from here. And you look at kind of everyone that's been involved in this storyline. We've really built this up well. Of course, sort of the interesting dynamic back and forth between Reigns and Rollins over the past couple weeks. You've got, Rock putting over Priest even being in the spot. I told you guys it's going to be fun to look at his popularity once we do our State of WWE video after No Mercy. But everything has come together on this. However, I am a little curious about the match itself because this is something where, I mean, The Rock is going to be in the ring, and I am most curious about that. I mean, this is our first match for The Rock, and this is honestly one of the reasons why I wanted to do this match was because I know this is our main event for Survivor Series with The Rock and Roman Reigns, and I just wanted to see, all right, what are we going to expect here from The Rock, and I think how we book this is going to be important because you kind of look at his ratings and all that, and I think it's going to be curious to see what it does. And I think just from a popularity standpoint, though, it's going to do well because he is so over. And yeah, I just think everything's going to be very interesting to see how this match unfolds. And yes, as you would expect, I certainly have some things planned for this big main event. And yeah, moving forward as we continue towards Survivor Series. So there you go. There is a quick preview for No Mercy. Let me know your predictions, all that good stuff. Like I said, it may be hard to predict who the mystery tag team opponents are going to be for the women's tag team titles, but nonetheless, it should be a very fun No Mercy. I think there are going to be some certainly big talking points coming out of it. And yeah, it should be a great show. And then, yeah, we will look at our State of WWE after that. So coming up on the next episode, it will be our SmackDown branded pay-per-view, No Mercy.